Hello gamers and gamettes, what is going on? My name is Tanek127 and welcome back to another video. And in today's video I got one that I've been really excited to talk to you guys about for a little bit now, and that is Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Now before we get into today's video, I do got to give a big fat disclaimer when it comes to Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. I got to give a special shout out and a thank you to 2K and Gearbox for sponsoring this video and hooking me up with a review copy of Wonderlands. If you guys did not see here on the channel earlier, this week I was actually giving away a free copy because I had actually pre-ordered Wonderlands just in case I did not get approved for a review key, and lo and behold, they ended up hitting me up all late launch day saying, hey, yeah, we like your content and here's a review key for you, and I had already pre-ordered the game. But anyway, I got to hook one of you guys up with an awesome game, so special shout out to the winner. The winner was announced on my TikTok just a couple of days ago. By the way, if you guys aren't, make sure you're following me on there at Tanek127 and the rest of my social media as well. But anyway, that's not why you're here. Let's go ahead and talk about Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. So, if you don't know what Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is, it is a spin-off in the Borderlands series. If you haven't played Borderlands, it is a series of looter-shooter games and pretty much the game that kind of started the looter-shooter genre. Yeah, for you nuts out there that think Destiny started this whole thing, nah. Borderlands was the first of its kind and has pretty much dominated the space ever since. They did make some weird mistakes with Borderlands 3 from what I'm hearing. I played a good amount of Borderlands 3. Unfortunately, I didn't dive into the DLCs too much and stuff like that, but I really did enjoy the campaign. I enjoyed the way the Endgame was working from the beginning and stuff like that with Borderlands 3. However, I didn't put as much time into it as I wanted. But with this game, that seems to be a different story and a different case. And one thing about this game that I really enjoy is the fact that this one is like a Borderlands for everybody. Now, let me explain. First-person shooters, they're not for everyone, and I'm going to get to my point with that later on here in the video, because the first-person thing is actually one of my criticisms about this game, believe it or not, and that's the traditional Borderlands style, but I'm going to bring that up at a later point. But like I said, they're not for everyone. But one thing Tiny Tina's Wonderlands actually does is it changes the setting of the game completely. It puts you in a more fantasy-like setting and stuff like that. You know, more of the things that you're used to from a typical RPG. Elves, orcs, goblins, magic, swords, and all that fun stuff and all those goodies. And if you've played the DLC that went along with Borderlands 2, Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep, you'll know that they did a really good job in that setting before, and they've done a phenomenal job with this setting now. There's a lot of, you know, flashy magic, all kinds of particle effects, and unlike typical Borderlands games, this one started with 6 classes. There's full-on character customization. That's right, you can play any character you want and be a male, female, and customize your character to your heart's content, which was, for one, a big turn on. I think something that's been missing from the Borderlands franchise for a long time. I do think that, you know, this should have been implemented in the original game, but better late than never. Now, the game is supposed to, you know, be taking a role for Tiny Tina's imaginary game. It's supposed to be like a Dungeons and Dragons kind of thing. In the Borderlands lore and universe, there's a game that they play called Bunkers and Badasses, which is their version of Dungeons and Dragons. If you've played Borderlands, you know the kind of goofy game and stuff that it can be. And they keep that same style in here. And, you know, that's one thing that I do appreciate. It doesn't tiptoe off too far from the Borderlands formula, but it does just enough to be different. Now, I can't judge the game much from an endgame standpoint just because I haven't experienced the game's endgame yet, but I have seen, you know, what the developers have talked about and things. There's an endgame system built simply called Chaos Dungeons where you can raise your Chaos level and find legendary gear and stuff like that. It does seem to have a pretty solid endgame from what I'm hearing. I haven't heard too many complaints about that on the internet and things, so I'm not going to say that the end game is wonderful or bad because, you know, I haven't judged that yet. And like I said, this is more sort of a first impressions and not a review. I've been playing the game personally on PlayStation 5, so I can say that the next gen version does run phenomenal. My cousin's been playing the last gen version here with me, and he's on a regular Xbox One S, and it does seem to run pretty good on there. Now, it's not as great as, you know, the 60 and the 120 FPS native 4K that you're going to get on the next gen consoles, but I will say with, you know, the amount of particle effects and crazy things that go on in this game, it's pretty solid on last gen. I do have to give them credit for, you know, for making this game work, period. And that's another thing about this game as well, is the class system, the spells, the different things you can do and stuff like that. All of it works in a new and phenomenal way. And I have to say that, you know, that's a really cool thing. You not only do you just have the typical guns and you're shooting, you know, and looting for different weapons and stuff like that, but you now have different magic spells you can equip, different things to buff your spells and abilities. And, you know, there's just all kinds of crazy particle effects and everything on the screen. It has, you know, that really RPG-ish or action RPG MMO like feel, and the game feels really good. Now, when it comes to this game, I do have two small criticisms that really bother me, and especially after everything that they started adapting to in Borderlands 3, I thought they would have went ahead and incorporated at least one of these by now, especially seeing, you know, some of the mod work in the community and things like that. And let me go ahead and explain. So my first and foremost complaint when it comes to Wonderlands is the fact that there's no third-person mode. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, you know, Borderlands doesn't do that. It's always been a first-person game. And that, I agree with you. You're 100% right. However, Wonderlands is such a crazy spin and turn on the formula that it really should be there. There's a lot of new melee weapons and melee involvement. Melee weapons actually have their own class slot, not their own weapon slot. Sorry, I didn't mean to say class. Their own weapon slot now here in the game. And, you know, they play a big part. And that's one thing about games like Skyrim, Fallout, and stuff like that. One reason they let you switch from first person and third person is to, you know, to adapt to those different kind of play styles, which is comfortable for you. And I do think, you know, that is something that they should consider with Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, especially, you know, given all the different play styles. And you can only imagine the different diverse builds that the community is going to come up with this game. I'm sure you guys have seen plenty of them on the internet. If you're playing the game now and looking for decent endgame builds, you know that they should consider implementing third-person mode as an option. Now, I know that's, you know, it's probably going to take more than just, you know, the click of a button. There's probably performance tweaks and everything that have to go on with that. But I definitely do think third-person mode should have been an option in this game. And my one and only other complaint when it comes to Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is they finally adapted the item of gear score or item score in Borderlands 3. I was happy when I saw them do that, but my one complaint with Borderlands 3 was they never gave your character an overall total item level or anything like that, you know, just to give you an average grade of power for your equipment. And they still haven't done that in Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. They still have yet to adapt that average or total item level system. And I think, you know, that would be a good way to help players scale and see how powerful they are for endgame raid-like content or dungeon content, or, you know, when they want to take on different raid bosses and farm things and stuff like that. When people are trying to build groups, hey, you know, we're trying to make a group to farm this raid boss for this piece of gear over and over. I recommend you guys should be a total item level of blah, 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 blah. But they still don't give you a total or average item level scaling for your character yet. They just give you individual item scores for the weapons. And me personally, I just think that's a system they should adapt. Now, I don't think these are two crazy negatives that should keep you from playing the game. They're just, you know, my personal critiques and things that I would personally like to see added in Wonderlands. Other than that, I really enjoyed it. I think it's a phenomenal game, and I do want to make more videos on it and cover it more in the future. So you guys let me know here on the channel if Wonderlands is something you would want to see on this channel more often. But anyway, guys, y'all enjoyed today's video? Smash that like button. I will see y'all in the next one. Peace out. Have a good one.